Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
We are muted. What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. It is Sunday, January the 25th. Man, oh man, there's a lot of exciting topics to get into. I don't remember an off season where, we're always kind of surprised in the off season where it's like, man, there's just so much to talk about. There's so much to get to. We didn't get to everything we wanted to get to last draft cycle, right? And then free agency creeps up, and you got the Senior Bowl around the corner. We got conference championships today. I'm sorry, man. When I find content online about the Packers and people are just reaching and clawing for stuff and talking about, I don't know, fourth string offensive lineman just trying to find a topic, a narrative around it, I'm like, man, you're missing the boat. There's so many good topics to talk about. So we've got a jam-packed show this morning. Jacob will probably join us here in a minute if everything frees up on his end. But we're going to talk about it being decision time for the defensive coordinator, right? We got 5 finalists. I feel confident that there's 5 finalists here, right? And we're going to talk about Jim Leonhard arguably being the top candidate to be the new Packers defensive coordinator. But kind of what are his top 5 landing spots too. And we'll kind of compare and contrast which one has a better shot of landing him. Is it Green Bay, right? Is it his home state of Wisconsin landing him as DC? Maybe he'll go back to New York. We'll talk about all that. We're also going to get into offensive line free agents. And we already went through our offensive line the other day and kind of talked about the weak spots where we need to add to the offensive line, center being a spot. Do you bring back Elton Jenkins, all that? You guys can find that video in the archives here on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch that. But we're going to talk about the potential free agents in terms of offensive line. We're going to talk about offensive line draft prospects as well. We may get into some specific scouting reports. We'll talk about our top centers in this year's draft and actually get into the details, the meat and taters of their scouting report, right? So that's what we got on tap this morning. And again, I don't know how long we'll go, but we've got 5 prospect reports lined up if we want to hit those on the backside. So before we get into everything, if you would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If you're new here, welcome into PTA. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We are fans just like you talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you are looking for that type of content, make sure you hit that like button for us, hit subscribe, and darn sure make sure you click that bell so you're notified every time we go live. We may go live a little bit later today again as well if news breaks. So we'll just kind of keep our finger on the pulse as we move forward. Got a bunch of people in here in the chat. Appreciate everybody hanging out. As Paige and Dr. Crutch, member here on YouTube, says spin those laces. I want to give a shout out to everybody in the Patreon group. It's growing like a weed. Everybody having some great conversations over there. If you're not a part of our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Hop over there and dive into the conversation with some of these prospect reports. And we're constantly sharing information with each other. It's not Clayton's giving you his take. Clayton's going to grade the tape. Clayton's going to grade this player. It's none of that. It's, hey, here's what we got lined up this offseason. Here are the prospects. Here are the free agents. Here's this. Here's that. Here's the defensive coordinators. Let's all get in there as Packer fans to talk about it. That's what it's all about. So appreciate everybody for hanging out with us this offseason. It's been an absolute blast. And let's see here. We got A. McCrae in the house. I don't know if I remember seeing that name. Thanks for not getting political, Clayton. I need a break from all of it. Hey, you're welcome, McCrae. Thank you guys for not getting political in the chat. That goes both ways. Listen, if I wanted to watch politics, talk politics, listen to politics, we got 17 different news stations. Lord knows you can find it on X. Everybody's got a damn opinion on how to fix the world. Man, if I wanted to talk about that, wanted to see that, we go look it up. It's right there at your fingertips. I don't understand, man. Both sides. Again, this ain't one side, it's just both sides. It's like, I'm gonna talk Packers. Oh, by the way, here's my political stance. I just don't get it. I don't understand. That would literally be like, all right, guys, hop in here. Let's talk Packers. Here's my favorite horse. Here's my favorite racehorse. Here's my favorite NASCAR driver. hey guys, this is my favorite vacation spot in the Himalayas. Like, what are we doing? So the best thing to do is just mute it and move on, man. That's all you can do. Hate seeing politics divide everybody. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. But again, thank you for the compliment. We appreciate it, McCray. That's what we strive for, man. We strive for just Packers talk and everybody getting along and everybody taking care of one another and all that. No, Chris, we're not going to talk about your favorite food, sir. All right. So that's another one that drives me crazy too. Hey, listen, you see me. You can tell I eat good. Like, I love talking food. Why the hell are we getting on a Packers podcast and talking food? Doesn't make sense, right? So, all right, let's get into it. First topic. You earmark this. And again, Jacob will be in here shortly, most likely. Tim may hop in as well. I know everybody's dealing with some brutal cold up there up north. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. If they jump in, we'll get their take as well. All right, let's get it. Decision time. The finalists. Jim Leonhard, Al Harris, or Jonathan Gannon for DC. Now, I'll put a poll question up on YouTube, guys. We want to hear from you. All right. We want to know, how do you feel about these coaching candidates? Okay. And the poll question is Jim Leonhard, Al Harris, Durante Jones, or Jonathan Gannon. Go get your vote in as soon as possible. It's also over on X. We'll check that poll question at the end unless my idiotic self forgets to do so. So let's get into it. The top 5 candidates. We got to kind of narrow down here, right? Number 1, Jim Leonhard. It is what it is. We talked ad nauseum about him. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the details of these guys, just quick little blurbs here. He remains the sentimental and likely top choice for LaFleur. Reports indicate that the Packers are essentially waiting for the Denver Broncos playoff run to end before finalizing the decision. Jim Leonhard is a Wisconsin native and previously turned down the job in 2021, but the mutual interest is reportedly much higher this time around. High mutual interest interview expected after today's AFC Championship. So again, who are we rooting for today? What I want to see happen today, guys, in the AFC Championship, I want the Patriots to win by 1 point. And I take that back. I want the Patriots to win 3-0. I want Jim Leonhard, his he coordinates the passing defense over there in Denver. I want them to just blank the Patriots, but I also want them to lose, if that makes sense. I want to be feeling really, really confident that Jim Leonhard's the guy. If they go out there and the Patriots crack the code and they end up dropping 35 points on the Broncos, I'm not going to lie, there'll be a little bit more of a, that didn't go as planned, right? But if that defense goes out there buzzing and they play really, really well, that would be awesome for obviously Jim Leonhard. Number 2 on the list, Jonathan Gannon, former Arizona Cardinals head coach. Gannon is considered a heavyweight in this cycle after being let go by Arizona. He oversaw an elite Philadelphia Eagles defense in 2022 that reached the Super Bowl. He brings a veteran play-calling presence that LaFleur is reportedly looking for to stabilize the defense with championship aspirations. Status he interviewed this week, considered firmly in the mix candidate. Okay, so he is firmly in the mix for the Packers. And also the Jim Leonhard status, high mutual interest interview expected after today's AFC Championship game. All right. Number 3 on the list, Al Harris, the Chicago Bears defensive back coach, passing game coordinator. Packers Hall of Famer, obviously. Harris has become a fan favorite candidate for reasons well known. He has seen massive success coaching secondaries in Dallas and Chicago, with his units consistently leading the league in interceptions. So not only has he led the league in interceptions at Chicago, he did it at Dallas. And I specifically grabbed this screen grab from Dallas because guess who that is in the picture? That's Mr. Trayvon Diggs, right? Who's one of Trayvon Diggs' best friends? Micah Parsons. They played together at Dallas. They were all 3 together. There's a nice little link here. Not only is Al Harris the Green Bay Packer Hall of Famer, but also he's got ties to Trayvon Diggs. The year that Trayvon Diggs made All-Pro, guess who his coach was? It was Al Harris, right? Now, Trayvon Diggs is currently a free agent. However, I think we would all agree that if the price is right, the Packers want to bring him back, and I think he does want to play with Micah. You bring in Al Harris, he'll probably want to come back as well. Now, if you bring Trayvon Diggs in, does that fix your cornerback room? You cannot look at it that way. It could. We may get All-Pro Trayvon Diggs if Al Harris is the coach. Hell, we may get it if Jim Leonhard's the coach, Jonathan Gannon's the coach, right? Just get him away from Dallas. Maybe he plays better football, right? For the right price, I like Trayvon Diggs. It doesn't mean you don't take swings in the draft. It doesn't mean you don't try to comb through free agency, which everything we're going to do with offensive line today, we're going to continue to do with the cornerback room as well, okay? So again, Al Harris, status officially interviewed with Green Bay, widely viewed as a candidate who wowed the staff. So evidently he did impress. All right. So Al Harris in the mix. Number 4, Raheem Morris, former Atlanta Falcons head coach. Raheem Morris and Matt LaFleur have a deep history, having worked together in Washington. Morris is highly respected for his leadership and defensive mind, famously helping the Rams win a Super Bowl as their DC. He is currently a free agent after his stint as Falcons head coach. The status reported to be at or near the top of LaFleur's wish list. Now, listen, there's going to be a lot of other Shanahan tree teams that if they need DCs, they're going to go after him. I think Sean McVay is right at the top of the list. If Chris Shula, I think is his name, Coach Shula, the defensive coordinator for the Rams, ends up getting a head coaching job, Willie, I don't know if he does. Raheem Morris will probably go back to LA, I would imagine, and coach for the Rams. However, if Shula stays put, I don't think he's been hired yet. If Shula stays put, then Raheem Morris might be very, very high on the list here for the Green Bay Packers, right? So, and I see the super chat there, Mike. Thank you so much, buddy. We'll hit it right at the end of this segment. Greatly, greatly appreciate that, pal. Number 5 on the list, Daronte Jones. This is kind of a sleeper, man. I was impressed when we dug through his history, his background. I would be okay with Daronte Jones. By the way, I would be okay with all 5 of these. The one I'm probably the least high on, if I had to pick one, is probably Jonathan Gannon. But if someone's argument is, hey, he's got head coaching experience and he was a dominant DC in Philly, I can be sold on that too. I'd be okay with all 5 of these candidates. Of course, we all have our favorites, right? So we'll check the poll question vote here in just a second. Daronte Jones is a rising star in the coaching ranks, has spent the last 2 seasons working under Brian Flores in Minnesota. Hiring him would allow the Packers to poach talent from a division rival. That's positive, right? And bring in a scheme influenced by Flores' aggressive style. His status, he interviewed with Green Bay this week. So he is fresh off the interviewing process. So look for Daronte Jones there as well, potentially landing in Green Bay. Now, of all of these guys, all right, we've got the poll question. Here are the poll results. Looks like we've got 40 votes here on YouTube. All right. I said, all right, Packer fan. Actually, you guys get your votes in. Get your votes in. If you haven't voted yet, go to the poll question, vote on which DC you want. I'm going to hop over to X and tell you guys the results there. It's been up a little bit longer. We got like 155 votes over there. So, all right, Packer fans, final DC poll. Who do you want as the Packers' new defensive coordinator? Number 1, Jim Leonard at 74.8%. Number 2, Al Harris at 13.5%. Number 3, Daronte Jones at 7.7%. And then number 4 is Jonathan Gannon at 3.9%. So Jim Leonard running away with it. Al Harris in second place, Daronte Jones in third, and Jonathan Gannon in fourth. So the fans have spoken on X. They say, give me Jim Leonard. Now, going to YouTube, got a few more votes in. It's exactly the same, guys. 82% Jim Leonard, 11% Al Harris, 4% Daronte Jones, 2% Jonathan Gannon. So if the fans had their pick, the new defensive coordinator would be Jim Leonard. No surprise there. I think it's a great hire if they go that route. And let's talk about Jim Leonard and his top spots real quick. All right. Teams interested in Jim Leonard. It's easy to go, okay, we would want him, but there's other teams wanting him too. And let's try to run it through the filter of looking at this whole situation through the eyes of Jim Leonard. Where would he want to go? First of all, his family still lives in Madison, right? So that would be closer to home. Number 1 on the list here, according to the research I did this morning, just having combed through several different websites. I got a minimum of 5 websites. Any information you could find, it compiled the data. This is what we came up with. All right. The Green Bay Packers are widely considered the front runners and most aggressive suitors for Leonard. Head coach Matt LaFleur is reportedly waiting around for Leonard to become available before making a final decision on his DC vacancy created by Jeff Hafley's move to Miami Dolphins. Status, high mutual interest. The Packers have held off on their hires to interview Leonard once the Broncos season ends. This is the guy that we're waiting for. This is the guy that Matt LaFleur seems to have at the top of his board. This is the dude he wants to have a conversation with before, right, he makes a decision on the other guys. So, again, I think Daronte Jones, Jonathan Gannon, Al Harris, all these cats, I think they're all in the running. However, Jim Leonard seems to be the one that Matt LaFleur wants. Now, number 2 on his list, the New York Jets. Jets have already completed a virtual interview with Leonard as a former standout safety for the Jets from 2009 to 2011. There's a significant homecoming narrative there. Status, the interview is completed. Leonard is reportedly a Tier A candidate for their vacancy. So the Jets want him just as bad as the Packers, right? Giants, New York Giants at number 3. The Giants have identified Leonard as a top target to lead their defense under, obviously, John Harbaugh. There is a strong connection here. Leonard played for the current Giants head coach, John Harbaugh, in Baltimore back in 2008, and the Giants recently retained outside linebacker coach Charlie Bullen, who worked closely with Leonard at Illinois, so you got some coaching ties there. His status viewed as a primary target, expected to interview once the Broncos season concludes as well. Number 4, Dallas Cowboys. People are going, whoa, Clayton, whoa. They already got their defense coordinator, Christian Parker. That's right. Now think about this. Put yourself in his shoes. Put yourself in Jim Leonard's shoes, right? Cowboys requested permission and have reportedly interviewed Leonard for their vacancy, a virtual interview, obviously. While they have interviewed several candidates, including Jonathan Gannon and Durante Jones, Leonard remains a favored option, is what it said going into that hire for Christian Parker. Status, reported interest, and initial interview steps taken. Now, what could have happened if they interviewed Leonard, they interviewed Christian Parker, and then Dallas decides to go with Christian Parker? Now, it could be that Dallas really liked Christian Parker more, right? I think that would not be a big surprise. He's got probably a little more NFL experience than Jim Leonard. There's a little bit more NFL experience there, if I remember correctly. So if they go in there and they like Jim Leonard more, what if in the interviewing process Jim Leonard said, I want to wait and go through all the other interviews? Maybe he didn't specifically say. Maybe he did specifically say, I want to interview with Green Bay because I have an opportunity to go back closer to home. I think there's a little bit of that might be involved there, just reading between the lines. But again, Christian Parker is the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator now. So number 5, Denver Broncos internal. If the current Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph lands a head coaching job in this cycle, the Broncos are expected to promote Leonard internally to defensive coordinator to keep him from leaving for a rival. Now, here's what gets interesting about that. Can he turn down a promotion, right? Because he's not currently the defensive coordinator. Can he turn down that promotion to go through the interviewing process and take a job somewhere else? I think he can. If you guys want to do your own research, that's something that come into play. Now, listen, will Vance Joseph get a head coaching job? Time will tell, right? We don't know that for sure, but that's something to kind of monitor. So if we're rooting for something today, we want the Broncos to be eliminated so we can start this process, or at least take it a little deeper. And then we want Vance Joseph to stay the DC in Denver, right? So it's going to be really, really interesting to see exactly how everything unfolds there. And yeah, Chris, like we said just a second ago, man, the Dallas Cowboys did sign Christian Parker. They did. We were just pointing out that was one of the people that interviewed Jim Leonard, and I wanted to make the point. The reason I kept it on the list is I wanted to make the point that what if something was said to the Cowboys like, hey, I want to be a Packer. I want to go back a little bit closer to home. And maybe that's why they went ahead with their number 2 choice in Christian Parker rather than Wade. Yeah, you bet, Chris. Thank you, man. All right. So there you go, guys. That's the talk around the top 5 candidates. If you guys are watching this video back later, let me know in the comments, how do you feel about those top 5? Maybe you got somebody outside of the top 5. The fan base is chosen here with the 4 options I gave you, both on YouTube and X. Everybody agrees Jim Leonard is our guy that we want. We're going to hit these super chats in just a second. We got Jacob joining us now. Jacob, man, you got anything you want to add to what we're talking about here in terms of these top 5 candidates?
No, yeah, I was listening. Kind of agree with your sentiment there. I think that if I had to pick my number 1, it'd definitely be Jim Leonard right now. If I had to pick a number 2, I think I'd honestly go with Al Harris. Like I understand the kind of maybe the hesitation there. Just if he doesn't have the kind of bona fides and like the experience, but like you can't argue with the production that he's gotten out of that secondary anywhere he's went. So that's something that we've been looking for in our secondary for sure, especially in the cornerback room. So yeah, that's pretty much what I would have to say to that.
Got it. I completely agree, man. I'd be okay with all 5, to be honest with you. Like Jonathan Gannon does.
Gannon's the one that I'm kind of like, I
would understand it. It would make sense, right?
Right.
But if he doesn't, think about this. If he doesn't get another defensive coordinator offer, right? What if Jonathan Gannon joins the staff as like an analyst, right? That would be exciting. Like you would get both of them. And what if you get to keep DeMarcus Covington, Derek Ansley, all these other guys, and then you bring in a Jim Leonard to be your new fresh blood DC. Yeah. And who knows, maybe he'll get in and tell Matt, I don't want him on my staff. I'd rather hire this guy. That, you kind of give him a little bit of freedom there in that regard. And maybe that's a part of the negotiating tactic as well. Maybe Jim Leonard says, I want full say over my staff. And maybe that, gets pushed back on a little bit. Who knows? We won't know those conversations behind the scenes. But Mike Witt with the super chat says, howdy, Clayton. My prediction is Pats and Seahawks win today. We hire Jim Leonard as DC by Wednesday, and we draft my draft crush, Dominic Orange, as they call him. What do they call him? Big Citrus, I think. Defense attacker from Iowa State, guys. Beast. Yeah, we did actually a profile on him. I think it was Chris the Casual In asked for it over in the Patreon group, so you can go to the Patreon group. We've got a collection created now of all the prospect reports. So if you just click on that, it'll pull up all the prospect reports. And I tried to. It looks a little bit wonky, but I tried to make it to where you could see the title and know what the position is of each player if you're not familiar with the names. So you should be able to get early and easy access to all that. Again, it's a perk of being a member of our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Thank you for the super chat, Mike. And he's got one more. No matter who our DC is next year, I want a more aggressive secondary. No more playing 5 yards off on 3rd and 4. Just my opinion. Got it, Mike? And you're not the only one with that opinion, man. There's a lot of people that you see that on social media. You hear about it in the YouTube comments. They want to be more aggressive up front. If you want someone to play more press and be up on the line of scrimmage and show that zero look, that double A gap mug, what Hafley called coffee house, if you want that, someone from Flores' tree probably be your best bet. Durante Jones, I would imagine. So, yeah. And then one more super here from Mike. Thank you so much, buddy. Honestly, my second choice would be Jim Schwartz. Very good DC, aggressive style of play, and he knows how to coach up a superstar edge rusher in Myles Garrett. The thing there with Jim Schwartz is you can't poach him away from Cleveland, right? And I think he's in the running for their head coaching job, but regardless, he's currently their defensive coordinator. So it would take a new head coach coming in, firing him, which I doubt they would. Maybe they would. Maybe they'd agree to part ways. But I would be okay with Jim Schwartz. He would go toward the top of the list if he was available. Go ahead, Jacob. What'd you have?
No, I was going to ask a question because while I completely agree with Mike's sentiment about the previous super chat where he's talking about how, right there, exactly. Thank you. No more playing 5 yards off on 3rd and 4. Just my opinion. When you get into that press man coverage, while you may take away that initial 5 yards, is it a double-edged sword that you give up stuff over the top, and that if you get burned on that, you're gonna give up a touchdown possibly, and a big one. You know what I mean? And like, is there anything that you can kind of? You're way better at knowing schemes and all that kind of stuff than I do. Is there a middle ground where you don't necessarily give up the under, but you still take away the stuff that's coming over the top? You know what I mean?
To me, the middle ground is. And this is just my personal opinion. If you want a more aggressive approach playing underneath, you're exactly right. Like, you can't take everything away. Now, you would feel really, really comfortable, way more comfortable with someone from Flores' scheme because, listen, they played aggressive like that and they got the job done. Now, you got to have the horses to run that defense. Do we have the cornerbacks to do that? Do we have the stack backers to do that, right? You got to have all the right pieces, and that's part of the DC coming in, and you got to go, all right, we got to give him some grace. He's got to get the pieces in place. It might be a year or two before we really see this thing click. Most of the time you see it pop year 1 and then you take a step back year 2, right? But to answer your question, what I personally like, I love simulated pressure looks like Hafley did, mugging the gaps. And what you're doing is you're forcing isolation with the blocking scheme. So like if they've got a 5-man protection and you're showing 6 or 7 on the blitz, right? But we know you're only bringing 4, you're basically tying up a hat at the line of scrimmage by mugging that spot. So those coffee house looks, I feel like it helps you in the run fit, right? And then if you get the athleticism to drop them out and still show a 3-deep look, then I'm sorry, not show a 3-deep look, but end in a 3-deep look, that's going to deter the quarterback from throwing deep. When you see guys play off and they make a catch and it's like, damn, it was a 3rd and 4. We were 5 yards off the ball, and they just hammered us with a slant. 9 times out of 10, it's not the scheme. It's the cornerback not reading it properly and jumping the route the way he needed to. Now, when you play match principles, it's very similar to man coverage. They've got to make sure they don't get beat over the top. This is where we differ, Mike, and I respect your opinion. When I look back on the year, I very, very, very rarely find myself going, man, we needed to be more aggressive playing closer to the line. Like when you look at the plays that truly matter, Keyshawn getting burnt down the stretch. You know why he got burnt? Because he was biting on underneath move.
He bit, yeah.
He's being too aggressive. They hit us with a double move over the top for a touchdown. I don't find myself going, God, we lost because they we just wasn't aggressive enough underneath. I find us going, we're blowing coverages, we're blowing assignments. Well, that's indicative of match coverage. Okay. Now, should pro athletes be able to play match coverage? And match coverage, what we're talking about, guys, it's a zone defense, a zone match. It's if and then. There's thresholds, there's marker points where if the 2 goes vert, then it becomes man coverage on that safety, right? Like each quarter has their responsibility in match. Now, if your guy leaves, right? If you've got match on the 1 and he runs a slant or a crosser and you know, okay, that's not going to be man coverage for me. Now you can freelance or you can drop deep and take away that deep responsibility. Again, it's if and then. You get to talking about terms like mod and apex and all the other things. If Jim Leonhard is hired, we're going to do a little bit of research, not a whole lot, because again, I think people waste a lot of time, energy, and effort going, let's understand his defense. And then 3 months later, he's completely changed everything because the league is constantly evolving, right? Yeah. But I think it is important to try to understand who's aggressive, who's playing man coverage, who's not, who's over the top, and are they playing shell, which is pre-snap too high safety, all right? Are they post-snap going middle field close or staying split? Are they going from split to cover 6 as opposed to cover 4? Are they going from cover 6 to cover 9 as opposed to cover 7? Are they playing any lock underneath? Like there's a ton of different things that come into play. And the reality is 95% of defensive coordinators play all of the things I just told you. It's just who's playing a little bit more than the others, and it against what pre-snap looks. Are they dub sets? Are they trip sets? Are they trace sets? Are they utilizing the back out of the – I mean, it's just a number of different things. And this sounds like word salad. There'll be people in the comments later on go, that's just word salad. No, this stuff matters. The people that say this are word salad are the same ones that are screaming fire the whole staff because you got a 7th-round pick and an undrafted free agent that can't play the defense.
Yeah. I like what Nick McSwain was saying. I think he's kind of agreeing with that sentiment, but just saying that if we can find the players that can play aggressive but then still stay with your assignment, and that's threading a pretty thin needle there, bud. And it's easier said than done. And that's the problem, is that I think that we've just, we just haven't had I hate I'm not throwing shade on the secondary or anything like that, because obviously I love what Evan does, what Bull does, what, obviously what X does. It's just, for whatever reason, we haven't had that shut down corner, either one or a tandem, you know what I mean? So it's just like, if we can find that, and if you can find a coach that is able to bring that out of the guys either that we have or that we'll draft or that we will sign, I think that's the key to unlock that defense.
Yeah, the closest thing we had to that was Jair Alexander. And what was the knock on Jair Alexander? Was he was biting on double moves to get beat over the top. It's like trying to play that hero ball.
Right? And he was very aggressive until he broke his arm. And then what happened after that? He's like, I don't want to break my arm no more, which I understand.
And I remember, too, being in the stands. Me and Emilio were down there in Nashville watching them play the Titans. And when Jair got his pick 6, his last pick 6 as a Packer, when he got that pick 6, I remember thinking, that's a great play. It's awesome. We're all cheering. We're loving it. But boy, oh boy, if they run a double move there, that's 6 for them, right? And that's the pros and cons of it, right? It worked out there. Now, why did he shoot his shot? Because we had a big lead. You can do that. But in a tight game, like you've seen Keyshawn with us against the Bears, and you bought on that double move. Actually, it wasn't the Bears. I think it was actually Cortland Sutton against the Broncos where he bid on the double move, I believe. One of many times this year. So It is what it is. Mike Z with the Super Chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Which DC gives us the best win now window? We are, in my opinion, in a win it all mode. Personal choices made and moving forward will determine this. Go Pack, go. I think that's a great question. Which DC gives us the win now? Of the candidates that we talked about, you got to, I look at it from 2 different perspectives, Mike. What is the roster? What kind of scheme is the roster built to run right now? And then the other is experience, right? Maybe head coaching experience, things like, I hate to say it, but win right now might be Jonathan Gannon. However, if we shift back to a Fangio style defense, right, and we go to like a quarters match or whatever, now we're getting a little bit away from the Halfley system, although there's still a lot of match in Halfley scheme. All of it's going to kind of apply. I'm trying to answer the question. We can't ignore the fact that Jim Leonhard hasn't been in a DC. We can't ignore the fact that Al Harris hasn't been a DC, right, and Durante Jones. So if it's win now mode, maybe the best choice would be Jonathan Gannon because he had a championship caliber defense that he coordinated in Philly, right? Now, we don't know, but Jim Leonard, Durante Jones, and Al Harris may end up being Hall of Fame defensive coordinators one day, right? We don't know that until we take that plunge, right? So keeping it safe and sticking with the guy just because he's got head coaching experience could bite you in the butt long term. But on the surface right now, it's like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. So Mike Witt with the super chat. I would think getting to coach Micah in his prime would help us beat out any other team for a potential DC. I was thinking about that the other day, Jacob. It's like if you go to Jim Leonard and say, which would you rather coach? The Jets, the Giants? Who's their best edge rusher? Name them right, real fast. Everybody in the chat. Who's the best edge rusher? If you don't do it within 30 seconds, I know you're Googling, all right? So who's the best edge rusher for the Jets and the Giants right now? Go, Jacob. Who is it?
It was the guy they drafted.
I don't know if Thibodeau is still there.
Thibodeau. I was going to say, I thought Thibodeau, but
right.
Man,
so
that's
now,
not it.
2-0 for this. Got it. Thibodeau. Now, Thibodeau, which would you rather have, Thibodeau or Michael Parsons? Not even close, right?
Hey, this guy came out pretty quick. Burns,
right? Perfect. All right, Bruce City. Which
so
would you rather?
It was Brian Burns. Yeah.
Which would you rather have, Brian Burns or Michael Parsons? Right. I think we all know the answer. So that comes into play because you know what Jim Leonard's thinking about too, guys. He's thinking long term. He's thinking, okay, I want to eventually be a head coach. If I go out there, Burns obviously says Dave McSwain. If I go out there and I want to be a head coach, all right, cool. What pieces do I have in place? What would I rather coach? Burns and whoever their safety is, or who's the other one? Thibodeau and whoever their safety is, Will McDonald and whoever their safety is. I see them coming in, right? Or Micah Parsons on the front with Xavier McKinney at safety,
and Coop in the middle,
Edgerrin Cooper in the middle. Stud lineman. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's a great point there. So, great conversation.
That's a good question, though. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, appreciate all the super chats, guys. If you guys fire more super chats in, we will hit them after this next segment. Jacob, I want to shift gears now, and I want to talk a little offensive line free agents. Okay, we did our offensive line deep dive breakdown just the other day. I want to talk about guys that we could potentially fix this offensive line with. And at the top of the list is obviously Tyler Linderbaum. We talked about him over and over and over, right? Tyler Linderbaum.
That looks like an offensive lineman right there.
It really does, man. 6'2", 305 is what PFF had him listed at. He's only 25 years old. Now, listen, we all understand he may not be available, right? The Ravens may re-sign him. He may follow whoever to – somebody said he may go to the Chargers. He may go to the Giants. All that we understand. We're just simply talking about if these guys are available, which they're set to be unrestricted free agents, these are the guys we want, okay? Number 3 in terms of the overall total potential free agency, okay? So the Ringer put together a top 40 free agent list as they're set to be unrestricted free agents right now. He was number 3 on that list. Tyler Linderbaum, one of the league's best centers. Baltimore faces a tough decision after declining his 5th-year option to avoid a high cap hit. So they may be looking to sign him long-term, right? But if he does hit free agency, guys, you're talking about a cat who had a grade last year of 80.2 with a run block grade of 83.7. I'm sorry, is that good? His overall PFF grades the last 4 years, 74, 78, 79, 80. He's still ascending. He's still getting better every single year. Former first-round pick, 25th overall selection. This is a dude you want anchoring your offensive line at center. Now, what's the calculated market value? $17.7 million. Pay that man his money, as Tim would say. I'd be all about it, okay? It talks about Creed Humphrey, Cam Jurgens, Lloyd Cushenberry, Drew Dahman. Those are the comps. Drew Dahman got away from us last year, right? What did he end up getting? 3 years, $42 million, $14 million average annual salary. He was 26 years old. You see the age comps here and everything in between. And then, of course, statistical comparisons with those guys. You see the percentage change, median prime percentage change for our boy Tyler Linderbaum, a positive 16% with an average prime percentage change of a positive 19.9% according to Spot Track. Calculated market value, 4 years, $70.8 million, 17.7 average annual salary. You're probably looking at a cap hit of somewhere that first year, probably around 13 to 15 million is a good safe bet. Compare that to Elton Jenkins, who's on the books for 24.8. Let me ask you a question, Jacob. Which would you rather have anchoring your offensive line at center? Tyler Linderbaum at a cap hit of 14 or 15 million this year, or Elton Jenkins at 24.8.
No question. I'd take Tyler.
Right. Now, think about this. People will say, we ain't got the cap space. If you cut Elton Jenkins, you free up $20 million. There's your cap space for this one transaction. There'll be other restructures. Guys, there's $70 million that can be restructured here. And I'm not saying you should do that. You shouldn't swap everything on a credit card. But you can, in a swoop, free up $30 million. You can be $30 million under the cap so easy it's not even funny. And what I think we would all agree is improving your roster as well. So
yeah,
that's Tyler Linderbaum. Jacob, I think you pretty much agree. Do you agree this is like the top dude? This is how you can really flip this offensive line?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, like you said, we talked about it last season about the Drew Dahlman, what that could do to an offensive line. We saw it come to fruition, and it absolutely changed what Chicago was able to do. And really just, I mean, absolutely, in my opinion, that's probably one of the main reasons that team was able to pull the horseshoe out of their butt time and time again, giving Caleb just a few more seconds, you know what I mean, to do that stupid wizardry that he does with his stupid nails.
Their run defense, bro. Their run blocking was unbelievable.
Right.
And again,
it made Monungai and Swift look like as if they're all-stars, and I really don't think they are.
And we had people commenting last year when we were talking about Drew Dahlman going, no way I would pay a center that money. Okay, Chicago did it, and look at their offense, how it took off. Their running game. Caleb had protection. Now, whether or not he goes colorblind and throws it to the other team in the biggest moments, that's a story for a different day. Whether or not he can hit a bull in the ass with a mop because his accuracy was, 52% or whatever it was. Like, that stuff right there, that has nothing to do with the offensive line. Imagine Jordan Love sitting back there behind Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Linderbaum, Zach Tom, Jordan Morgan showed he can be a good tackle if he keeps that up. Let's say you bolster the offensive line at left guard as well. Right guard, you let Anthony Belton grow, but you're not just assuming he's going to be a good offensive lineman. You go try to find someone there as well. You put that huge offensive line in front of them. You continue to press in a duo with Josh Jacobs. Who knows? Maybe Marshawn Lloyd is finally healthy, and this team will rebound like that with what should be a little bit easier schedule. The Bears have got to go through the gauntlet now. They got to face all the number one teams, right? So that's something that's going to change with the schedule as well. Mike, I see your super. We'll hit it at the end of this, man. We got to run through this information.
Real quick, Orange of Mars says, can't imagine Baltimore letting Linderbaum go. I don't think that it's a fact that if they want to let him go, from what I understand, it's more of a cap issue, right?
Right. And listen, they can make it work. If they want him, they can get him. That's a great point there, Orange. It is. The question is, do they want him? Now, here's the other thing. They would have to franchise tag him if he – we're sitting there, like if we look at it, okay, if Baltimore wants him, they can go get him. Yes, they can. But put yourself in Linderbaum's situation. Is he going to take just an offer from them, or does he want to test free agency? Because I feel very comfortable saying if he tests free agency, he's going to maximize his opportunity to make the most money and the most guaranteed money, right? So if you're looking at it through his view, his lens, yes, you want to test free agency. Now, they can hit him with the franchise tag, and that changes everything. But the fact that they didn't want to hit him with the fifth-year option tells me that they won't put the franchise tag on, because the franchise tag will be significantly higher, I would imagine, than the fifth-year option. And the fifth-year option, they didn't want to do that because they're in cap hell right now, right? So let's move along here. Just some other free agents real quick. Jacob, we're doing pretty good on time on this segment. Braden Smith, tackle, all right? This is a tackle from the Indianapolis Colts. People are going, we don't need a tackle. We don't need a tackle. We know what Green Bay likes to do. They like to sign and draft tackles and kick them to guard, what have you. I put him on here because this is one of the veterans. People will see that age and go, no way, he's too old. He's 30 years old, okay? Remember Joe Tooney last year was too old. The Chicago Bears went and paid him, and what happened? They revamped that offensive line along with Drew Dahlman, right? So I'm not saying Braden Smith is Joe Tooney, not saying that at all, but these are the type of guys you want to at least explore and see if you can get a decent deal on. You can sign him. I know he's going to be 30 years old. You could sign him to a 3-year deal and be out of it in one like you did Aaron Banks, right? But what if you hit on this one? You see what I'm saying? No. Aaron Banks seems to be a miss. All right. Aaron Banks is 24.8 against the cap, same cap number as Elton Jenkins. If you cut him, you only free up $4 million. If you do a post-June 1 cut, you can free up significantly more cap. I would personally rather move on from Aaron Banks and bring in another guy, another free agent to try to fix this problem. Now, that free agent may end up being Elton Jenkins. If you cut Elton Jenkins, free up $20 million, let him test the market. He comes back and his best offer was $8 million. Bring Elton Jenkins back for $10 million or less. Put him at left guard. Jordan Morgan left tackle, right? Elton Jenkins left guard. Imagine someone like a Tyler Linderbaum playing center. Roll with our boy Anthony Belton at right guard, and you got Darian Kennard who can fill in if that goes completely haywire, and you got Zach Tom coming back at right tackle. That offensive line is fixed if you hit on all that, right? The problem is if you take a swing on somebody like Braden Smith, it may be a miss. His calculated market value is $13.5 million. You see the comps: Morgan Moses, James Hudson, Austin Jackson, Jack Conklin. Nobody's looking at those names going, those are studs, right, Jacob? But if they're serviceable. If they're serviceable offensive line. Now, would you take those guys over Aaron Banks? You probably would, right?
No.
Statistical comparisons there, they kind of did the breakdown there. And he came out with a pretty good medium prime percentage change. So even though we don't like those names we just mentioned, Braden Smith played significantly better. So you'd be a 25%, a 22% increase over their salary. So 3 years, $40 million, 13.5. Again, that's just another.
Conklin was a Badger, right? That's the only one. That's the only one I'll stick up for.
I can't remember. Sure. He may have been.
I think he was.
Been. Yeah. And I don't know. We haven't deep dove, how he played. He may have been great, right? I can't imagine if he was great, the comp probably would have been a little higher.
I was gonna say there's nothing that pops off that list being like we gotta sign this guy kind of thing.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So others on the list here, other free agents. I'm gonna rattle some names off. We've got it sorted according to Spot Track by their market value. Look who's leading the way here. This way you got to be careful going, oh yeah, go get me David Edwards, go get me Braden Smith, because Rasheed Walker's at the top of this list and we're letting him go, right? Most likely. We'll see. But Rasheed Walker, $20.2 million. David Edwards, guard out of Buffalo. He's 28 years old, $19.9 million. Tyler Linderbaum, we talked about, 17.7. Isn't that wild to think about that you can get Tyler Linderbaum for cheaper than Rasheed Walker if the market value doesn't tank?
That's crazy.
All right. Connor McGovern, 28 years old, out of Buffalo, $16.2 million. Braden Smith, we just talked about, 13.5. Tevin Jenkins, guard out of Cleveland, 13.3. Cam Robinson, left tackle out of Cleveland, 13.1. Ed Ingram, guard out of Houston, 12.9. Joe Bonito out of Cleveland, 34 years old, probably can still play pretty decent football. We'd have to do a health background check on the health there. $12.9 million for him. Right now, let's talk about some of them that grabbed my attention here, Jacob, that I'd be interested in. And these are guards. Imagine plugging these guys in at left guard, okay? 28 years old, David Edwards from Buffalo. His PFF grades throughout his career: 61, 70, 68, 58, 90, minimal snaps though, 66, 70. To me, that looks a little more appealing than our boy Aaron Banks. Now, people will say Aaron Banks is a big guy, though. This dude's 6'6", 308. Pretty solid. I'm not saying he would fix the offensive line. I'm simply throwing names out there like, hey, guys, these are some cats. Do your own research. Take a look at that might fix that left guard spot. Another one. Let's say that Tyler Linderbaum goes back to Baltimore or he's not available. Connor McGovern from Buffalo. He's 28 years old. He's a former third-round pick. His PFF grade, 61, 67, 53, 55, 69, 70. A little bit up and down, but he's playing his best football last year. He was the 10th highest-rated center in the game. I'm not saying you break the bank for somebody like this, but if Linderbaum is not available and you don't fall in love with one of these draft prospects like a Jake Slaughter, Connor Lew, Logan Jones, Pat Coogan, Keelan Rutledge at guard, somebody like that, right? If you don't fall in love with those guys, Connor McGovern might be a nice little patch, a cheap patch, right? I'm not saying he'd be a minimum, but you can kind of get a decent deal on. Donovan Schilling said, love McGovern coming out. So there you go. Again, 70.9 PFF grade last year, pass blocking 70.8, run blocking not bad either, 68.6.
Yeah, I actually did love Connor McGovern in the draft as well. I think that he's been a staple on what I consider a pretty damn good franchise of the Bills for a few years now. You look at the PFF grades and they're not necessarily jumping off the page, but they are seemingly ascending, which is kind of what we look for. Still relatively young. I agree with you, Clayton. If we do not have the Linderbaum in our sights, and if that just isn't a possibility, that's my number two. That's a guy that I think that at least could come in and just be serviceable, right? And that's kind of, it sucks to think about that's what we're okay with in Green Bay for years now, is that just come in and just don't suck, It's like, so I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. Next on the list, Ed Ingram, guard from the Houston Texans, former second-round pick. His PFF grades, he's kind of young, right? 26 years old, going to be 27. 57, 59, 54, and then last year, bang, he jumps to 73. That's a tough one, right? Pass block grade 52.4, overall grade 73.8. He's a run blocking mauler. Hey, give me that at left guard. We need a good run blocker, right? That's the positive. However, which one is the real Ed Ingram? Is it the 73.8 or is it the 3 years in the 50s, right? For a good price, I'd be okay with bringing him in and letting him maybe compete with Aaron Banks if you want to restructure Aaron Banks' contract. If you decide to cut him loose and maybe you bring back Sean Ryan, imagine Darian Kennard, Sean Ryan, and someone like Ed Ingram competing for the left guard spot. That would be interesting as well. So other offensive linemen here on down the line, Jonah Williams from Arizona, Rob Havenstein from the LA Rams at 10.2, Wyatt Teller, Dylan Parham, Trevor Penning, Jamari Salyer, Isaac Samalo, Kevin Zeitler still out there, going to be 36 years old. Kevin Zeitler still playing football as well. Jermaine Ulamanur, if I'm saying that right. Sean Ryan from the Packers. All right. Previous average annual value 1.2, 6.5 on the market. So you're seeing where he's falling in here. I would love to have Sean Ryan back. I think that would be a good kind of backup piece to have in place to know he can play backup center for you and do it at a decent level. I don't want to put all my eggs in that basket like, hey, that's our starting center.
Yeah, I agree completely. You know what's crazy too is if you scroll back up to that initial, like who's going to block for Dion's son? The Cleveland Browns have like all of their linemen are leaving, dude. Like every single one of them.
Yeah, unless they sign them, right? Yeah, you're right. There's a bunch of them ready to hit. You know, like I've heard a lot of people say Ethan Pochik, if I'm saying that right. That's another one that many people are interested in. Now he's 30 years old, but again, a 1 or a 2 year patch it. And what did we say every year? We got to get a little bit older. We got to get some veterans in here. This is how you're going to do it. So we can't go into camp the last 3 years, and you always hear me throw my marker. We're the youngest roster in the league again, boys. Probably not going to be a Super Bowl year. Going to be it is what it is. Nobody's done it in the 60-year history of the Super Bowl. Nobody's done it. There's arguments that the 2014 or 2013, whatever year it was, Seahawks did it. I can't get confirmation on that because I'm the research that I'm showing is they were not the youngest roster in the league. Did you see this is how you get older, adding veterans.
Did you see that stat or meme or whatever where it looks like Indiana's average team age is 23 and Packers average age is 24?
Right.
And we're sitting there like, whoa, I wonder why we make so many mistakes. Well,
I'm telling you.
We got kids out there, man.
Seriously. Well, they got a lot of experience. Oh, do they? Really? Yeah. Well, I know the second that they blow a coverage, we're trying to fire the whole damn coaching staff. And going into year 2 of what we said was a 3-year Super Bowl window, we went from we're in year 1 of a Super Bowl window to scrap the whole thing. It's a wild place to be. It really is. And listen, if that's your opinion, if you're hearing my voice and you're going, well, that's how I felt. I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong. I'm trying to find answers. I'm trying to find solutions. What's the problem here? Okay. I know this. In 2018, it was Mike McCarthy's fault. We fired him. Okay. Keep in mind, Brian Gutekunst was promoted in 2018 to the general manager role. Some would say he was already the general manager while Ted was dealing with the sickness. Throw that out the window. Let's say 2018. 2018, Brian Gutekunst is hired. That year, it was Mike McCarthy's fault. Fast forward 2 or 3 years later, it was actually 2 years later, it was the special teams' fault. Then you fast forward a year or 2 later, it was Aaron Rodgers' fault. Now it's Matt LaFleur. Then it was Joe Barry's fault. Now it's Matt LaFleur's fault and Rich Bisaccia's fault. There's one thing that's been here the entire time. And I'm not saying run Goody out of town. I'm not saying we should fire Brian Gutekunst. But maybe, just maybe, we need to make a little bit of a shift. Now, they did do somewhat of a rebuild during that process, right? The rebuild is over. That's not an excuse anymore. Let's add some veterans and let's try to go on a run here. That's just kind of how I see it. So that's just like I said, a quick look at some of the free agents that are available in terms of offensive line. If you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments. How do you feel about that list? Is there anybody there that really grabs your attention? Maybe there's nobody there that grabs your attention and you would like to attack the draft. Let us know in the comments how you feel about that. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future live streams. We got hot ham and rolls plus PTA starting Sunday morning. Good. There we go. Freedom House.
What is a hot ham and roll? Do you know what that is, Clayton? I was just
hot ham and roll. I imagine it's ham on a hot roll. I could be wrong. Mandy makes these little sausage here. We said we weren't going to talk food. We're not doing it. All right. We're not doing it. Let's move it along here. So but enjoy your breakfast / brunch / whatever the heck it's called there with the hot ham and rolls. So let me hit the super chat real quick before we move on to some draft talk. Mike Witt with the super. Appreciate you, buddy. Who knows if we hire Al Harris for DC, he can hire Charles Woodson for DC coach. Yes, I guess just an assistant coach is what he's talking about. I know it's not going to happen, but it would be awesome to see the Packers cornerback duo coaching the Packers. That would be really interesting, right?
Whoa, Clayton, we got some big
Charles
news.
Woodson would be interested in being a DC or a defensive. I don't think he'd be interested in coaching. He's probably enjoying the media. What you got, Jake?
We got some breaking news right now, big time.
Oh, don't you do this to me. Big time.
The Packers have just hired Jonathan Gannon as their defensive coordinator. That is coming from Andy Herman and Tom Pelissero.
There you go. All right, so we're going to shift. We'll hit the O-line prospects later. The Packers have made their decision. They're going with the veteran, Jonathan Gannon. So let me do this. Let me call an audible here, all right? And let's talk a little Jonathan Gannon, your new defensive coordinator.
You already got it.
There's your update. Fire Jonathan Gannon. All right. So Jonathan Gannon is the new DC. It was interesting that they scheduled 2 interviews at once, right? They went ahead and scheduled that second interview right off the bat. So very, very interesting that they went this route. So what we're going to do is call an audible here. Can. All right. And let's get into the Jonathan Gannon report that we had before. Jacob, hit that super chat for me here from Mike Witt as I get this geared up here, man.
Yeah, Mike Witt, who's just Mike. What do you do for a living? Because man, you just super chat like you just throwing out dollars, man. I appreciate it. Obviously, he says the only thing I will say about the youngest team argument, Clayton, is Seattle is the 3rd youngest team in the league, and they are just 1 game away from being in the Super Bowl. Just saying.
Right now, Mike, that's a great point. But here's my rebuttal. Okay. Let's just assume, first of all, we didn't say the 3rd youngest team. We said the youngest team, right? I've been on the record over and over and over saying I don't need to have the 15th oldest team. I don't need to have the 30th oldest team. What I want is to not be the youngest team. So if the Seattle Seahawks go on and win the Super Bowl, it still applies. 60 years, no team has been the youngest roster and won the Super Bowl. I'm not saying we need to be 15th oldest. I'm saying get us out of that bottom spot. Get us around the 5 spot, right? And again, what's the difference between Seattle and Green Bay? Why is Seattle doing so good? They're not making the mental mistakes. I wonder why. They're not the youngest team in the league. Well, the average age difference is just this or that. I get you. Okay, we're splitting hairs now. Got it. Again, the youngest team in the league will not win the Super Bowl this year. And Seattle, that 3rd youngest, is kind of debatable there as well because I'm seeing 25th is where they're at. No. So however you want to look at that. And that's by snaps, I believe, is 3rd youngest by snaps. So go ahead, Jake. What you got?
Yeah, no, I think too that you could probably take you can't just put like an average age. You have to look at where are the age compared to the positions. Like, is the quarterback the oldest and younger? You know what I mean? Is the edge defender? Is your safety the young? Like, it's you can kind of mix and match that, and then I think that would actually be a little more indicative of like, are they young just overall, or are they young in just certain positions? And then are they positions of need and importance? And like we've always talked about, center, 3 tech, quarterback, you know what I mean? Like, are those the actual positions where they're the youngest in, or are those the positions where they have the most leadership, the most veteran experience to the point where they can actually kind of maybe get the other guys that are that young, kind of pull them over the mark, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Thank you for the super chat, Mike. Appreciate you, buddy. And again, man, we can agree to disagree. I got you. I think I might be in the minority with that opinion, to be honest with you. And surprise, surprise, Clayton's in a minority with an opinion here, right? Paige and Dr. Crutch with the super chat. He does speak Melton. What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Man, you guys are way too intelligent for me. I don't know what it means. But thank you for the super. All right, let's get into it, Jacob. The breaking news here. You timestamp it. We got breaking news. The Green Bay Packers have selected their defensive coordinator. And you did get confirmation they were not fake accounts, right? We are good to go.
We are good to go.
All right, so let's fall back now and talk about the deep dive that we did on Jonathan Gannon. If you guys are wondering who the hell is Jonathan Gannon, I don't know much about him. We did the write-up. Obviously, when they originally interviewed Jonathan Gannon, the Packers slated to interview. This was what day was that? Don't have the date, but you guys remember when they set that interview up. Obviously, he had multiple interviews. The Packers set up 2 interviews initially, which told you he was pretty high on their list, right? So let's go back to his playing days real quick, okay? Playing career for Jonathan Gannon. Gannon was a standout 3-sport athlete in high school before his playing career was cut short in college. High school, he attended St. Ignatius, if I'm saying that right, Ignatius in Cleveland. So he's an Ohio kid, where he won state championships in basketball and track hurdles and was an all-state defensive back. So he's an all-state defensive back playing football. In college, he attended the University of Louisville. He played safety from 01 to 02. He had an injury, so his playing career ended in 2002 following a severe hip injury suffered during his sophomore season. So again, those who can't teach, a lot of times guys who love the game, they get hurt, they can't play the game, they get into coaching immediately. That's what he does. He wasted no time, all right? So following his injury, he immediately transitioned into the coaching and scouting ranks. He was with the University of Louisville from 03 to 05, served as a student assistant while finishing his degree. In Louisville in 06, he was promoted to graduate assistant on Bobby Petrino's staff. Atlanta Falcons came calling in 2007. He became the defensive quality control coach. That was his first NFL role with the Atlanta Falcons in 07. Then he moved to the St. Louis Rams in 09 to 2011, spent 3 seasons on the scouting side, serving as a college scout in 09 and a pro scout in 2010 and 2011. So you got a guy, Jacob, all-state athlete in high school, gets a scholarship to play for the University of Louisville. He's playing defensive back, right? Gets hurt, career-ending injury, immediately transitions into coaching, and he's got a scouting background as well with the college years. Before we get into the NFL assistant side, how important is it for you for it to be a former player to be a coach, man?
I mean, I think it's huge. And just to confirm, we have Rob Domofsky now tweeting out Adam Scheffner's report. So yes, this is 100% official.
Thank you for checking.
People in the chat are asking. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that old adage of those that can't do teach, and that's not like a slight on him. It's just like you said, when your hip stops and you literally can't do the game anymore, who would you rather have? A guy that just kind of schemingly, would you have Emilio that plays rookie on Madden, or would you want a guy that actually has played the NFL game kind of thing? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I look at it. And honestly, we kind of both, I think, kind of pushed a little bit back, but we did say that Gannon, like, we understand the lore there. We understand also that I think that he didn't get a fair shake in Arizona. One, because just like no matter what you do as a head coach, if your quarterback's not completely in it, and I'm not saying necessarily that Kyler isn't the type of quarterback that you would want on your team, but I'm kind of saying he's kind of the quarterback I wouldn't want on my team. You know what I mean, Clay? Like, it's just a thing. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just seems like that if he had maybe somebody that was a little more like football based, that maybe that whole situation, that whole narrative is changed completely. So I like it. I'm fine with it. I think that I'm definitely going to throw on the jersey and just be like, let's go. Let's see what you got to do.
Yeah. All right. Let's shift to him being an NFL assistant with his coaching career. Okay. That started in 2012 up till 2020. Gannon spent nearly a decade establishing himself as one of the premier defensive backs coaches in the league. So he went to the Tennessee Titans in 2012 and 2013. He served as the defensive assistant and quality control coach. Then he moved on to the Minnesota Vikings in 2014. Looks like for 3 years there, assistant defensive backs coach under Mike Zimmer. All right. So Mike Zimmer was a very aggressive coach, a lot of blitzing, right? He came from Cincinnati, got the head coaching job in Minnesota. So I know that our boy Jonathan Gannon has a Fangio background, but he also has a Mike Zimmer background. That's why it's very, very important to understand that. He may, while in Philly and running a Fangio style, and the same thing in Arizona, he may have wanted just to bring pressure with 4, but it doesn't mean in the past he hasn't been a part of pressure, coaching staffs as well. And that doesn't mean he's going to go back to pressure. It just simply means maybe he's seen that, didn't like it, and wanted to steer towards a Fangio style, right? So it's important to understand where they've been the entire time. He was instrumental in the development of Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith during a period where the Vikings boasted a top 5 defense. So under Mike Zimmer, they had a top 5 defense. He was coaching up Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith. Now he moved on to the Indianapolis Colts 2018 to 2020. He was a defensive backs coach under Frank Reich. He helped the Colts secondary become a disciplined, high takeaway unit, contributing to 2 playoff berths in 3 years there with the Colts. Now, on to coordinator. He puts on his big boy pants. All right, you ready for this? Puts on his big boy pants in Philly in 2021 to 2022. Defensive coordinator 2022. His defense finished second in the NFL in total yards and led the league with a historic 70 sacks, helping lead the team to a Super Bowl victory. Now, here's the thing, right? Like Chris N says, Jonathan Gannon runs a multiple front. That's huge because some people we're going back to a 34. We're already running multiple fronts, to be honest with you. People throw 4-3 and 3-4 around like it's. Yeah. I mean, hell, we had a 3-4 defense, and Matt LaFleur was talking about we only play 2 gap when they go to 2 back. So we were already playing 1 gap principles. There was just so many people that didn't truly understand what was going on.
That's kind of what this on the fly. Sorry, what this comment is, I think that Chris actually highlighted here. It says Jonathan Gannon runs a multiple front, zone-heavy defense, heavily influenced by the Vic Fangio system, emphasizing a match quarters coverage and a four-man rush to disrupt passing games without blitzing. Right. That's kind of like what you just said right there. Yeah. Like he likes to disguise a lot of stuff.
There's people that are going to see that and they're going to go, we're going back to Joe Barry. Time out. Joe Barry's final year, we weren't running a Fangio system. They had shifted it to where we were majority middle field close. We wasn't playing quarters match. Now, again, people get confused with pre-snap and post-snap. Pre-snap shell, we'll probably see a lot of that with Gannon, unless he's changed his philosophy and you want to mug a lot. I just told you guys, I like to mug. I like those guys mugging the line of scrimmage and dropping out like Hafley did. Gannon may go back to the 2-high shell, and what that does is you're showing quarters match and you're forcing the quarterback to post-snap read, and typically they will can out when you see a 2-high shell, and they'll go to something to attack underneath, right? Maybe to a run play, maybe to a concept that floods a zone on one side that's really going to make you a little more advantageous against a match coverage of the quarters variety, all of that. So again, we got to take all this with a grain of salt, right? He may run something totally different here. Matt LaFleur may want him to press into something a little bit different, but it is going to be a multiple front, and I think you will see a lot of matches, sounds like. So,
what do you think about Martin's comment here?
Green Bay needs a 3-tech bad to run this system correct. Every system needs a 3-tech, Martin. That's my opinion. It doesn't matter what scheme you're running, what system you're running. You need a dominant 3-tech. A dominant 3-tech makes it go, right? If you don't have a dominant 3-tech, then you got to manufacture pressure, right? 3-tech on one side, dominant edge on the other. That's how you want to roll. So you got Micah Parsons. You're good to go there. Will Devontae Wyatt be a dominant 3-tech? We haven't seen him dominate. I think he's been good, but you got to continue to look for that. And I'm telling you, there's one dude in this draft that is not going to be around when the Packers pick in the second round, but God, I'm in love with him, man. That Georgia kid, we did a profile. We'll talk about him a little bit later today, but man, you talking about like an 11% pass rush win rate or something crazy. It's insane, dude, how well he was playing at Georgia. But anyway, carrying along here, let's try to finish this up. So they were second in the NFL in total yards and led the league with a historic 70 sacks, helping lead the team to the Super Bowl, right? And then he goes to the Arizona Cardinals as a head coach. 2023, they finished 4-13 while managing the recovery of Kyler Murray. 2024, they showed significant improvement with an 8-9 record remaining in the playoff contention until late in the season. So they went from 4-13 to 8-9. And then in 2025, after a 2-0 start, the team suffered from key injuries and finished 3-14, leading to his departure in January of 2026. So again, what do you want to look at? Do you want to look at what he did as a head coach in Arizona, or do you want to look at what he did dominating as a defensive coordinator in Philly? That's the big questions, right? So when you get to that point, I'm always going to lean toward what did he do as a DC as opposed to what he did as a head coach. Because, I mean, Jeff Hafley, if we ran it through that filter when Hafley was hired, we immediately talked about, damn, his defensive numbers at Boston College at the college level were mediocre, right? Well, he was a head coach, you know. Some would say he didn't even call plays at BC, never called plays in his life. Now, there were other people saying as co-defensive coordinator for Ohio State. He called the plays. There was only one guy that I seen reporting on that. I'm sorry, I need multiple sources. I'm not going to just trust me, bro. I ain't going to do it. You know what I mean? So with all that being said, just because he's a bad head coach doesn't mean he's going to be a bad DC. Now, I'm going to be honest, completely upfront. My opinion, he wasn't my top choice. But Jeff Hafley was not my top choice. Jeff Hafley was on nobody's radar. What you got, Jake?
No, nothing. Randomly, your text message just went through at 9:04 as we're sitting here live.
For real?
No, yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. I seen you jump over there, and I was like, "What the heck?" So these are Arizona's defensive numbers that don't even really apply. Again, man, they were bad defense when he was the head coach in Arizona. There's no doubt about it. You guys can go check those numbers out. Now let's talk about the coverage that he called. Okay, in 2025. All right, so. In 2025, the coverage scheme for the Arizona Cardinals, try not to look at the EPA per dropback, that's cheeks, but what did they call? 25% of the time, they called cover 4 quarters. Now, it wasn't what they called the most, okay? They called 27% of the time cover 3. Now, there's probably match principles, just like we seen with Hafley. There were cover 3 match calls all over his tape, all over his play call sheet, okay? So cover 3, 27% of the time. 25% of the time it was cover 4. Why do I mention that first? Because he called cover 4 defense more than anybody else in the league other than the Falcons, which was tied at 25% as well. So it's going to be cover 4 heavy along with cover 3. And then the next after that would be cover 1 man. So middle field close, single high man coverage. And then after that would be cover 2 zone. The biggest change you're going to see here, if he presses into what he was doing at Arizona, is you're going to see a significant dip from cover 6 defense calls, okay? What I mean by that, the Packers called cover 6, which is quarter, half. It's half cover 2, half cover 4. We called that 16% of the time last year under Hafley. The Arizona Cardinals only called it 7% of the time. So it would be literally more – it would be less than half, I should say, that you'll be seeing cover 6. So what Gannon's probably going to do is cover 3, cover 4, and cover 2. And when you go man coverage, single high man, he did call goose 3% of the time, not an astronomical number, although the Packers call goose 2%. And goose is just 0 man. It's no safeties on the shelf. Man coverage across the board and blitz everybody else. A lot of green dogs attached there.
To that credit, when I did happen to look down at the phone, it says Jonathan Gannon called cover 4, just like you said, cover 4 quarters on 23% of his total snaps with the Cardinals, first in the NFL in that season. Gannon calls more quarters than any other NFL coach. Hafley's package were on 20th, like you just said, in quarters usage. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of a shift there.
There's going to be more quarters calls for sure. And here's the thing too, with this number with 25%, that comes from, shout out to them on X. Go give them a follow at @fball_insights. They are a phenomenal follow on X. That's where this came from. You were saying 20, how much percent cover 4, Jacob? Because they had 25 here.
Yeah, they said 23.
Okay, so 2% difference there. And again, everybody may have different numbers there, but you see in the ballpark, anything over 23% is going to be significantly higher. And again, they even said with their chart that he ran the most quarters. Or
does that indicate to you any sort of shift that they would try to do maybe in the draft or the offseason as to accommodate that type of place call?
I don't think so, because Goody's going to do Goody, man. You know,
yeah.
I think Goody's going to continue to build the roster the way he wants to build it. I can't imagine. Let's forget.
Let me ask, if it was you, if you were the GM, would you try to draft a certain type of player with a certain type of skill set, if that makes sense?
With quarters coverage, let me think here. You want to hit home before. Again, I think that Goody's been trying to get the best players at every position. I don't think he's been going, I'll put more emphasis here or there. I think he sticks to the board, and it is what it is. I know that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but you want to be able to get pressure with 4, right? You can get pressure with Micah Parsons, okay? LVN really started to peak. I think he was somewhere right at 12% pressure rate, according to NFL Pro and Next Gen Stats GPS tracking. So roughly 11 to 12% for LVN on one side. You've got our boy Micah Parsons on the other. If Rashawn Gary comes back, Rashawn Gary was at 12.5%. He actually led all of our edge defenders at pressure percentage. He also led the team in sacks, other than Micah leading in everything, obviously all world. If you bring back Gary and you go back to a 4-man rush, with Micah, Gary, LVN in the 3. That's the thing too. Are we gonna continue to march out those what used to be called a NASCAR package, what we called Cheetah, 3 edge rushers? You could, but there was a lot of mugging going on that allowed you to kind of mask that a little bit in the run fit. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
This is what I was saying, Jacob. What you need for this is a dominant 3 tech. You know what you need in Fangio's system out there in Philly? You need a dominant 3 tech. You know what you need in Florio's system with the 0 blitz and all that? A dominant 3 tech. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you're running. It's kind of it's the piece that you need probably more than anything. I think more so than an edge rusher, to be honest with you. You ask any quarterback in the league, all right, which would you rather face? A dominant edge rusher or a dominant B-gap pass rusher? They're going to say, oh, I'd rather deal with the edge. I can make him miss. But when they're pushing that pocket back in your lap and you're trying to step up to your second read and fire the pigskin, that's a hard get there, man, for sure. So let's see here. We got this one too we missed. Let me hit this one real quick. Mike Z with the super chat says he is unexpected but is a great coordinator with coaching multiple schemes. I see this as giving us a chance to win multiple ways on D. Go back. It's funny too, Mike. I think you were the one who asked the question earlier. Which one gives us, whoever it was, which one gives us the best chance now? What was my answer? It was
Gannon.
To say it, but Gannon's probably the one best right now, right? So it wouldn't be my top choice, but that's how I would have to answer that question because we don't know what Durante Jones would be, or even Al Harris would be as a DC, or even Jim Leonard would be as a DC. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Let me hit this last super chat, and then we'll get ready to wrap up here because we definitely went over on that. Packer Doug with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, Clay, are there certain positions you look to draft for versus those you go to in free agency? Seems like I'd want a free agent center. Agreed, Packer Doug. We seen, man. I feel like Goody's a good GM. Now, you guys know I'm not like crazy about him. I'm not one of these people that Goody can do no wrong. I think that's really weird. Same thing with LaFleur. Like I wanted LaFleur back, and it felt like I was in the minority, but lo and behold, we ended up being, in the large majority there, right? But it doesn't mean that Matt LaFleur is perfect. Same thing with Goody. But when it comes to center, we took a swing on Josh Myers. We missed. They hit on Creed Humphrey. Creed Humphrey was better in year 2 and 3 than he was his rookie year, right? So if you can bring in a center like Linderbaum or Drew Dahlman, right? If you can bring those guys in, they're ready. They've already been in the trenches. They know how to identify blitzes. They know how to identify protection and help the quarterback set the protection, right? And get everything. And then on top of that, run blocking. You get a young rookie that comes in, like if we do go with a Jake Slaughter in the draft, and that's our starting center. Yeah, the future looks bright, but who would you rather have? That'd probably be the better way to ask you this, Doug. Would you rather have a rookie Jake Slaughter, who's right now projected to be the best center in the draft? Would you rather have him or Drew Dahlman? Would you rather have Jake Slaughter or would you rather have Tyler Linderbaum? I'd rather have Tyler Linderbaum. In terms of specific position, center is one of those, yeah, man, I want a veteran there, dude. I mean, think about the great Packer teams in the 90s. Frank Winters playing center, right?
Frankie Bag of Donuts.
Yeah, Frankie Bag of Donuts. And then also when the Packers won in 2010, Scott Wells.
I was going to say Scott Wells. Which
he was a dude that they cut him one year and put him on the practice squad, and he got pissed, and he battled his way back. And that was a dude that, like, he was a veteran. He may not have been the best center in the league, but he's a guy who's been around. You look across the league, man, and it's hard to find a team that's doing great with an extremely young center. They usually need 2 or 3 years experience. So I think it's a great question, Doug, and that's the way I would look at it, man. I definitely want a veteran at center. So anyway, we got to wrap this up, guys, with that breaking news. I got to get this video out to everybody. So, if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know. What do you think about Jonathan Gannon? How do you feel about that defensive coordinator hire? Was he your top choice? Maybe he wasn't your top choice, but you understand, hey, with this window being open, he gives us the best shot right now. Let us know in the comments what you think. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future live streams. I'm going to get all this edited and out to everyone. We appreciate everybody jumping in here, all the super chats, Mike Witt, Mike Z, Packer Doug, Paige and Dr. Crutch, everybody in the super chats. Thank you all so much. Everybody in the chat too, man. It was on fire today. So we'll be back later today. I'm going to reset everything. We'll get into some draft talk later today. But again, I'm glad we were able to break that Jonathan Gannon news. So everybody have a great day. That's Jacob. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack, go.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.